Almighty God, we humbly call on you to bless this council and all who are engaged in the work of local government. Grant that they may order all things in wisdom, righteousness, and peace. And Lord, today we think of those who are not with us, particularly we think of Councillor Moyo, currently unjustly detained. We pray for him particularly. We pray for his security and that he would know your peace. But we pray now that you would be with us as we deliberate in the best interests of all the citizens of our great city, to the honor of your name and the good of your people who dwell in this city. Amen. Amen. Good afternoon, councillors, our management team, and members of the Fourth Estate. It's very good to be meeting with you today. Last Thursday, I was privileged to meet with the UN Secretary General's envoy on climate crisis and El Nino, Rina Gelani, the UN representative, the head of WFP. They met with me in my capacity as the mayor of our great city. They were in our city and in our region to determine for themselves how grave the consequences of El Nino have been. I'm sure that all of you here today are getting reports from rural areas regarding the grave state of affairs in rural areas. And of course it affects our city because we are all linked to the rural areas. We have family, we have friends, and inevitably even our own residents are facing food shortages. This is a grave crisis that we can't avoid as a city. And as city fathers and mothers, it is inevitably going to be something which consumes our energies and must consume our attention in the weeks and months that lie ahead. And so as we deliberate this evening, I ask that we bear that in mind. The statistics coming out of the rural areas are horrifying. I had a report from Natisa in Kumalo Communal Land from last week. In this one particular locality, there are 243 families. Only 10 of those families had received food aid. Children are battling to go to school. They are so weakened that to walk the 5 to 10 kilometers is difficult for those children. And whilst the children in our own city are not as badly affected, it is inevitable that in the coming months we are going to see the consequences. And I just stress that this needs to consume us all. And I stress once again, this has to go beyond politics. It has to go beyond partisanship. Unless we all work together, we are not, as a city, as a region, as a nation, going to overcome this terrible thing. And we also need to be praying that the good Lord would have mercy on us all this coming season, and that the good Lord would stir the hearts of the international community to assist our nation at this time to ensure that no people starve. So that is the first thing I wanted to say as a general comment. The second and final thing relates to what you all know has consumed us all in the almost year that we have been in office, and that concerns the related water crisis in our city. Our women councillors did not attend the meeting, but many of our men councillors attended the meeting that was held out at Umzingwane Dam 10 days ago. And all of us who attended, I think, were horrified by the visuals of Umzingwane at less than 3%, Lower Ncema about to be decommissioned, Upper Ncema about to be decommissioned, Inyankuni at 22%. And although there is water in Nsizha at 43% and in Chabez at 53%, we learned at that meeting about the deficiencies of the pipelines from Chabez and from Nsizha dams. And whilst Nyamandlovu Aquifer, I'm delighted to say, thanks to the best efforts of Zinwa and our own engineers, is working at higher capacity. My report yesterday from our water engineer was that it is still only operating at 50%. And so my appeal to the government today is that they hear our plea. We are facing an absolute catastrophe in our city. Our dams are sitting at 31%. The work which needs to be done in the short term, which is not just the replacement of pumps at Umzingwane and Inyankuni, but critically the rehabilitation of the pipelines from Mchabez and Nsizha to Ncema water treatment works, can only be done if the balance of monies promised by government are released to our council. And this should have been done yesterday. We're not talking about months or years. We are talking about a situation that when the two Ncemas are decommissioned, it is inevitable that the amount of water which can be delivered to our city will reduce. And God forbid if we have another drought like last year, we face the real prospect of running out of raw water. And so this is an appeal to government, but to all councillors. We have councillors from right across the political divide here. And we need to speak with one voice in this regard, to ensure that the monies which have been promised are dispersed urgently so that our engineers and the Water Technical Committee can get on with the job they need to do, because this is going to be a matter of life and death. This might sound overdramatic, but it's not. We have to plan for the worst. We cannot plan on the assumption that all will be well. That would be irresponsible of us. In closing, I want to, as you all know, but for the benefit of the Fourth Estate, say that we have seen very pleasing progress with regard to our medium-term water strategy, namely the construction of Glass Block Dam. In our last meeting, as you know, we were briefed that government had said that they did not want the contract to be between ourselves as Bulawayo City Council and the construction consortium. The good news is that there is now a consensus that a contract be entered into between Zinwa and the consortium. And what we are now waiting for is for formal cabinet approval. And we applaud government for that progress. And I'm sure that I speak on behalf of all of you that we await with eager anticipation for cabinet approval to be given for the construction of Glass Block Dam, so that that can be built. Now, Glass Block Bapoma obviously does not provide an immediate solution for the woes I've spoken about. We will not get water from that dam before 2027, but it is a critical component in ensuring water security for our city. And to that extent, we trust that that contract will go ahead speedily. With those remarks, I look forward to our deliberations. On a lighter note, I'm hoping that we can all get away by 8 o'clock, because we've got our 2 champion 200-meter runners running in the semi-finals in the Olympics at 8 o'clock this evening. And I'm sure that we all want to go and cheer them on. Siyabonga.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship, councillors of the City of Bulawayo and the esteemed stakeholders, management and staff and members of the fourth estate. The legal question being confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 3rd of July 2024, attached as Annexure A, pages 8 to O. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Do we have a mover for that?
Sorry, Your Worship.
Okay. Pin. Can we move to item 2, report to the Future Water Supplies and Water Action Committee? Could the Chair move the report?
Your Worship, I move that the report of the Future Water Supplies and Water Action Committee meeting held on the 2nd of July 2024 as submitted be received and the various recommendations contained therein be adopted.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Any debate? Councillor Ndlovu?
Thank you very much, Your Worship, TC, management, and staff, fellow councillors. I want to contribute on the first item, which is the status of water resources, just to buttress what Your Worship said in his opening remarks. On the visit that we had to the dams, we came face to face with the gloomy picture of how depleted our water resources are, insofar as the dams that actually supply us with water is. We saw it with our own eyes, and I find it shocking to imagine that with these year temperatures, we are obviously going to lose a lot of water through evaporation and percolation. So the drawdown and the abstraction is going to increase as we move forward. So this is quite serious. And I want at the same time to commend the department, the Water and Sanitation Department, for the efforts that it has been doing, obviously with the help that has come from government. But my plea and my appeal is that this is not enough. What we have been given is not enough. As of now, the amount that we have received to do a pumps upgrade, to deal with the pipeline restructuring, it falls far short of expectations. And to imagine another drought in this coming year is just too horrific to contemplate. I think we need to then, as City Council, rethink or innovate our strategies of future water reserves. Even our borehole drilling, we need to revisit our systems that we have been employing all along. I read in the press a few weeks ago that there is equipment that can be sourced, which can drill boreholes that can go up to 400 meters. I think that is how serious we need to be. Because when we talk about future water, we really need to think about, besides the dams, we need to think about what alternative sources that can retain water. So 400-meter depth will cut across so many water tables, and it's going to certainly guarantee us a lot of water for use as City Council. I want to perhaps say this committee should have recommended that as well in their recommendations, to say, let's think about deep shaft drilling so that we can trap a lot of water. My last point on the status of water resources is to do with a disturbing feature which has been discovered at its in-Caesar pipeline because of the environmental degradation that is occurring there. A pipeline, the main pipeline, has been exposed. These people have been doing a lot of sand poaching and moving over it time and again, and this main pipeline has been exposed. We saw it in the report. I would like to urge this council, together with perhaps support from the government again, to increase security measures, because City Council can only guard its infrastructure, look after its dams, infrastructure and properties, but beyond the catchment areas, it becomes a challenge for City Council to police those areas. Thank you.
Your Worship, I stand in the interest of the ratepayers and the residents of this glorified city of Bulawayo. I'm grateful that we are speaking and talking measures in addressing the water situation, but there is a gap in our address to these issues, given that, like you have explicitly explained, that gas block is not a short-term project, whilst water is an immediate need. I'm looking at a situation where we request for funding or we look for funding to at least do some researches and surveys in search for underground aquifers, which can supply us with adequate water for the residents. Water is life. Water is a right. Water, access to water in terms of the Zimbabwean law shouldn't be discriminatory. Surely, Your Worship, when we have residents of this seat, out of no choice though, receiving water twice a week, it is a catastrophe, Your Worship. I pray that let's look for funding to address immediate needs of our water. Bopoma Dam is also going to depend on the same rainfall patterns that we are experiencing. And the whole of Sub-Sahara is receiving minimum to below average rainfall as the years are progressing. And evidently, we are going to persistently and efficiently receive lower and lower rainfalls. The effects of the what you term macrocausas around our water catchment areas is one of the biggest Achilles heels also that exacerbate our situation in terms of addressing the water situation. Because as soon as it's going to slightly rain, there's going to be enormous washaways into our dams, compromising our water capacity. Could we also look for security towards that area so that at least we protect those areas that are supposed to ensure that we have adequate water? Pausa water, Your Worship, becomes a stopgap measure. And because water is so precious, there is bound to be a lot of contamination in transferring water from the taps to the bowser, from the bowser to the containers that are used by our residents, from the containers that they are using to drinking them. There's so much transfer, Your Worship, to a point where we cannot exactly promise our residents the degree that is required according to international health standards in giving them safe and secure water. So my prayer this late afternoon, Your Worship, is that as we look for funding, let's seek to address immediate terms. Dams, yes, we applaud the dams. The boreholes, yes, we applaud that. But let's look for adequate capacity underground. It takes a lot of money, I know, but with the help of government and city council cascading its wings far and wide, surely we can do something than persistently looking for the dams. I was also hoping that, because we were talking about future water, Your Worship, we also get to be engaged probably progressively on a week or bi-weekly, on a fortnight basis, on the progress made in the Matabele and Zambezi water project, because it has always been addressed as the panacea to our challenges. Despite how expensive this water is said is going to be, given the pumping and the gradients coming through, it's better to have the expensive water coming through. I was born, Your Worship, slightly before independence, and we were being told about the Matabele and Zambezi water project. And to this date, my Lord, I'm almost at the end of my life. I'm almost at the end of my life. Can we honestly have something that something tangible to say water is coming, and when is it coming? Where are we? What are the challenges? Thank you so much.
Have we no further debate on this? Before we move, I just want to respond briefly, just to make a couple of points. And please excuse me, I've been talking too much today, so my voice is going. The point regarding boreholes is a very important point. As we all know, that this is a pet project of the town clerk. The town clerk is of the view, and he's supported by others, let it be said, that there are other aquifers within the vicinity of the city, particularly south of the city. And that certainly needs to be pursued and explored. And it is relatively cheap to do the scientific exploration. Related to that, you were talking about 400 meters. There are drilling rigs that can go down 2 kilometers. That are used, for example, in Botswana in the gas fields. And we need to explore that as well. Let me also respond regarding the very serious issue relating to gold panners in particular. And Councillor, one thing I would just add to your remarks, it's not just a question of siltation of our dams. Such is the destruction of many of our river courses, is that water will never get to our dams. I have personally witnessed in the Umzingwane catchment area entire rivers which have been dug up and deep trenches constructed. And in a moderate rainy season, the rain will never get, that water will never actually get to Umzingwane. And we saw that this past season. This is not the worst rainy season that we have had as a city. And yet no water got to Umzingwane. At the height of the rainy season, I posted photographs because I went down to the Umzingwane River. The river was not flowing at all. And we have limited capacity as a city council to police this. This needs a concerted effort from national government, from the police, from the Environmental Management Agency, and possibly even from the army, because it's a matter of life and death. And the same applies at Nyamandlovu Aquifer, where we have 60 boreholes, and on my report yesterday, they're only running at 50% capacity, and the reason is because the balance of the boreholes have been stolen, and the switchgear stolen. That is a Zuma facility. The point, Councillor, in response to you is that we need the support of central government to stop this environmental degradation and to, of course, stop the vandalization of facilities. So you are absolutely correct in saying, both of you councillors, that our sole strategy cannot just vest in new dams. It is multifaceted. It's new dams. It must be upgrading of the infrastructure, ensuring that our non-revenue water comes down. The percentage of 48% is unacceptable, and dealing with alternative water sources such as boreholes, and stop putting an end to the degradation of our water systems. But with those comments, can we move this? Move? Thank you. Agenda item 3, report of the Environmental and Management Committee. Could the chairman move the report?
Thank you, Your Worships. I move that the report of the Environmental Management and Engineering Services meeting held on the 15th of July 2024 as submitted be received and the various recommendations contained therein be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Thank you. Any debate?
Move the report.
Move the report?
No, some comments, Your Worship.
Chair?
Thank you, Your Worship. As I stand before you in this honorable house, Your Worship, I would like to offer my heartfelt apology to my colleagues. Previously, Your Worship, you'll note that I've defended the Water and Sanitation Department, but not now, Your Worship. After visiting, Your Worship, sorry to say this, please listen to me. Councillor Mabuto, kindly listen to me.
You can't criticize him. You can't criticize him.
He is the chairperson of the committee. He is the owner of the report which is before the House. And we don't expect that from the chairman of the committee. Thank you.
Sorry, Your Worship.
Proceed, Chairman.
Proceed.
I understand that, Your Worship.
No.
But Chairman,
No. That's wrong.
That point of order is correct.
Yeah. Sit down.
Is there no debate on this report? There's no debate, so move it.
Move now.
Move.
Would the chairman of Town Lands and Planning Committee please move the report?
12,000.
Sorry?
It comes first 12,000.
12,000?
Okay. Should be 1,000 first.
I beg your pardon. Would the chair please move?
That report of the Health, Housing and Education Committee meeting held on the 16th of July 2024 is submitted, be received, and the various recommendations contained therein be adopted.
Do we have a seconder? Seconder, any debate? Councillor Glover.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, councillors and management. On the issue of refuse removal, that is item 1C. I want to speak to refuse removal. The concern here being that City Council has been doing very well in terms of the weekly refuse collection. But however, we still have some of our residents who still haven't understood, you know, the awareness campaigns, the education campaigns to stop dumping litter rampantly. Particularly when we talk about things like your old radios, your old TVs, we are seeing a lot of those. I think what did not come out clearly for me in the report of this committee is how residents should deal with these. Because remember, we have what are called the compactor trucks. And hard litter like your buckles, your broken asbestos sheets, your remains of tiles, things like, you know, like I've mentioned, buckles and TVs. We need probably a recommendation from them to say, let us introduce what is called a special refuse truck, because I remember it used to be there, which is going to have a program that is announced to all wards, so that people who have got such items can then prepare for their collection. But otherwise, generally, they are doing very well. The weekly refuse removal is happening. Leave for these hard litter items, which I've mentioned. I would have expected them to come up with a position to say what happens to the hard litter. Thank you.
Any further debate? Just before we move, I just want to use this opportunity to thank councillors. It's an opportune moment to thank councillors. I deeply appreciate the efforts that many councillors have made right across the city in leading by example, by their own example, in cleaning up litter. It has been heartwarming. I have to say to our male councillors, though, that the ladies have dominated, and we need to take a leaf out of their book. But thank you to all of you, and let's keep it up, because I think that if we lead by example, we can change the culture of our city and transform it into a really clean city. Thank you. Can we move the report? Right. We now go to the Town Lands and Planning Committee. With the chair, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship and Councillors. I move that the report of the Town Lands and Planning Committee meeting held on the 16th of July 2024 as submitted be received, and the various recommendations and amendments which has been proposed on item 24 contained therein be adopted.
Seconded. Thank you. Seconded. Debate.
Chairman has said item 24.
Item 24.
I need item
Is there
2.
anyone
Item
who
2.
wants to debate
Item
prior
2.
to item 24?
Item 2.
Item 2, Councillor, you have the floor.
Item 1.
2.
Item 2.
Town Lands.
Yes. Ngiyabonga Nkosi. Nginanzelele laphana kukhulunywa ngama-letable shops ukuthi bakhona asebezisebenzisela kungekabi lemvumo evela ku-council. Umbuzo wami Nkosi ukuthi izephulamthetho lezi zenziwani, ngoba sesinanzelela ukuthi izitolo eziningi zenezi eziqunyaqunyiweyo phakathi kwedolobho ziyatsha mihla lamalanga, but bona bakhetha ukuthi ngoba bethe batholile indawo anduba uCouncil approve yonke into ephakathi ukuthi ilungile, bona bakhethe ukuzisebenzisela ngenkani. Ngokuletha kuwe Nkosi.
What item then? What paragraph are you going to?
Item 2.
Also item 2.
Yes. That developments that we're seeing, like ama-letable shops, which the council was talking about, and the box stores, and the townhouses. And my question is, where are the skyscrapers, hotels, and industries? And the last one is, when last did we give the churches stands? When last did we give the churches stands?
Any other debate, or are we going to go to 24?
Your Worship, on item 24 on the public transportation operators. Following the amendment proposed by the chairperson, as in this report, if you can recognize, the county park was only allocated one transport operator. I would like to propose that the county park be also allocated another transport operator in the name of Vuta. As you all know, that county park is a city inside the city. So that is my proposal before this house. Thank you, Worship.
Councillor, can I just see a clarification? Because in the recommendation you see in paragraph B that it does refer to Vuta. Is that the company you're referring to?
Yes, yes. And then if you can see the map, it shows the allocation of routes for the different companies. They are also indicated in different colors. You can see no map.
And you're saying that Vuta has not been
So
allocated?
as County Park Councillor, as you all know, County Park is a very big seat inside the city. I would like to propose that we add another transport operator in County Park. We should not have only one only. I should also propose the new baby voter that will apply according to the report that is before us here. Thank you, Worship.
Is there any further debate?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I would like to second the proposal made by Councillor Msana. Your Worship, I'm sure that you are aware that when we are going to County Park boarding a commuter or minibus, there is a place called the border post between Bulawayo and County Park. This has been created by public transport operators. And these transport operators that we've allocated the route to County Park are notorious for creating that border. Here, the border, people are changed from one commuter minibus to another, and you see elderly people being moved from one community to another, depending on where the person is going to. And the operator that has been allocated the route to County Park is notorious for creating that particular problem. And the residents of County Park are not interested in that. Secondly, you have got the peak hour prices. Around 7 a.m. in the morning when people are going to work or wherever they are, or in the evening, it's very difficult to find a public transport that goes to County Park. And they are not satisfied that one public transport operator will be able to satisfy the needs of the people of County Park. Thirdly, Your Worship, for the issue of routes in County Park, most of these transport operators, actually the transport operator that we have allocated the route to County Park is not able to service far-fetched areas. For example, Denver Farm in Ward 15. For example, they're not able to get into the County Park terminus, County Park TM area, and so on. And therefore, the only operator that has been able to sit down with residents and reason with them and come up with solutions to some of these challenges is Vuta. And therefore, it is our plea as the councillors for County Park to break this monopoly of one public transport operator operating in County Park. And therefore, I support the proposal made by Councillor Mhlanga to allow Vuta to operate in County Park. I thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor, you've already spoken. Oh, okay.
Ngiyabonga Nkosi. Kusem item 24 isikhuluma nge-transport. Angina nkinga yokuthi uVuta aboperate koBulawayo. Kodwa-ke ngikhulumela ngiprotecta izakhamizi. Of late uVuta vele uyasebenza koBulawayo. And izisebenzi zakhe mhlawumbe whatever abasi-operate i-transport le abaphathanga kuhle izakhamizi zethu. So thina angazi singukhansili ukuthi singangena sinjani, sisithini, singancedisa njani. Sibacela ukuthi izakhamizi lazo ziyabe zidinga i-transport zokuyafika emsebenzini, labo badinga imali yokuphilisa abantu babo. Therefore thina kumele sibe phakathi laphakathi, sincedise siseve izakhamizi ekuhlukuluzweni ngama-transporters la okuthiwa ngovutha phecelezi bakhuluma inhlamba into enzama ukuyitsho nkosi yami. Angazi ukuthi singancedisa njani. Again ngakuyavuma as uSithi of Bulawayo sibe le ndawo for example sithi kulo Bengula Street yikho lapho kurenka khona uvutha. Egodini yikho lapho okurenka khona ubhubha. Ukwenzela ukuthi nxa kungaba lesakhamuzi esilahle into ethile ebekwazi ukuyayitracer ukuthi ugadele endaweni engaka, obviously abanikazi betransport le ngobani, uhlukuluzwe endaweni engaka, abaphethe indawo leyi ngobani. Ngigcina nkosi yami ngithi ngakuyavuma bonke abeze transport koBulawayo bahambe besebenzisana lamakhansila bancedise ezimfeni phakathi komuzi. Mhlawumbe nxa sithe saba le challenge basikhiphela ikhombe yodwa kumbe amabili ngokuvumelana kwama-association abo sincedise izakhamizi eziyizo ezincedisa ibhizimusi la ngesikhiwa bathi plowing back to the community. Ngiyabonga Nkosi.
I have nothing against the proposal, but my concern is the compliance of bylaws and policies, which the transport company is already operating, and it has been operating for some time, and it's also having allocated bays, is ranking at a body, but is seeking the approval after operating for some months or a year or so. Are we really complying as a council or really enforcing our policies and bylaws?
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. Still on the same matter, number 22 about transport. Mina, I would like
24.
24.
I will give you an opportunity, but whilst we're on item 24, the Deputy Mayor was going to make a contribution. If you wouldn't mind taking your seat and then I will come back to you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much, Your Worship. I am the member of the committee. I would like to clarify this report for us. Currently, the Bulawayo public transport policy has got only 3 transporters executing Vuta. So Vuta is applying to join these 3 to make them 4. For starters, I think I have to clarify that. And secondly, I support what Councillor Mhlanga has raised. Coach Park, as we said in previous meetings, which Councillor Mhlanga did not agree with us. Coach Park on its own, it will be a satellite town of the city of Bulawayo. We shall have industries there on their own. So previously I was saying they don't want any industry in Coach Park. So I'm supporting him to say only one public transporter in Coach Park is not enough. If we have 2 or so, I think it will be better. Of course, the policy on itself is saying each route should have 1 public transporter so that there won't be conflicts, there won't be border posts as Councillor have alluded to. But for Court Park, there must be an exception because it is a very, very, very big place. So I wanted to clarify those issues. Yes, for now, what have been given the authority to pick up passengers from Ekodini, but they are not on our policy. So this item before us is to allow them to be part of that policy so that we have 4 public transporters. Your Worship, I wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's very useful. Can I get an indication of it? Are there any councillors who oppose what has been moved? Councillor?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I think the report before us is very clear. And let me assume that the colleagues here have read the report which is before the House. On the report here, it is clearly stated that the Vuta is totally disorganized. And the residents are complaining with this transport operator. It is breaking the city laws. My question is,
Yes, the management or the committee, right, summoned these people and sit down with them and discuss the issues which are coming from stakeholders before we allow them to operate. Because the concerns which are being raised there, that they are even loading passengers from a designated site and offloading passengers on a designated site. Reports of violence, according to the report, have been also been noted in the report here. And surely we have never had a situation in the city with the three transport operators whereby we have received such kind of conflicts with the stakeholders who are the residents. And I trust and believe that we need to relook into this and properly sit down with these people if we are to allow them to operate, Your Worship. Because as long as we are having these complaints, Your Worship, coming from residents with a totally disorganized association like this association needs to be properly inducted before it is granted the authority to be part of the transport operators in the city.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make some comment on the resolutions at this point. The council was said to speak exactly of issues that the council have already alluded to. We don't have a disagreement, but it doesn't stop us from allowing this water company from applying this trade company. Since time generally before towers inserted for the operator, we had showers in the city, the commuter operators ferrying people everywhere in worship. So the showers are not coming with water, so maybe it's a misplaced comment. But for now, let's allow them to have the service. The community is allocated.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to concur with the colleagues who have spoken to this matter insofar as giving the nod of an additional transport company, because if you increase operators, certainly you are going to have efficiency, because competition brings about efficiency. But if you have few companies that think that they can do as they please, they end up, flouting the regulations. You get issues to do with disregarding our requirement that they must load from Ecotin, because that's primary. We need orderly transport in the city. They do route cutting. They also, change their prices depending on whether once it starts raining, they gives them an opportunity to change their fares. So we need people who are compliant, who are going to observe the law. So the more we increase these operators, I think we then give residents an opportunity to choose. Also tied to that, I think on the council side, we need to be serious about law enforcement, like my colleague, councillor has said. I think in that regard, we fall far below expectations, because you find that Ecotin, it has also led to another ripple effect in terms of what we expected from Ecotin. These operators are loading from all over town. They've disregarded Ecotin. They are loading from outside along Bad Street, meaning to say those vendors who had taken up space in Ecotin are not getting business. Go to Ecotin and see the uptake of stands. Now go to Bactas right at the end of town. Everyone has run away from those sites. I think our transport sector has to pull up its stockings and ensure that we put enough security so that anybody who is found to be carrying passengers from undesignated zones, they must be very punitive. I want to emphasize, punitive sentences. If they are not punitive, then this council must resolve that we come up with deterrent, fines and penalties.
Thank you. Is there any further debate? No, I'm going to have my say. Councillor, we're still on 24.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sisakhuluma ngendaba ye-transport. a very serious concern about umshikashika wama-wonder futhi. Labana yibo abantu abanye futhi abasingisela idolobho lethu. Bagcwele yonke indawo. I-concern yami yokuthi ungathutsha amapholisa bagijime ngendlela ebuhlungu. Abantu bayalimala. Kanti akula ngenye indlela yini worship ukuthi labana abantu bathathu mhlawumbe labo bebe njengabovutha labovutha whatever bebe registered maybe ngoba since transporting ngathi yahlupha but indlela abaoperator ngayo iyo embi because bagcina sebegijima kakhulu emgwaqweni iyo enye into esihlukumezayo ngama-transport operators. My second point, as my other colleague had said, ukuthi abantu laba bagcwele yonke indawo abanye basitshela masesemthoveni bathi lokhu vela ngeke lize likuqede. Otherwise kulabantu who are benefiting out of that. Isicelo sami worship yikuthi akukhangelwe kahle okuyinto lokhu ukuthi kahle kahle why abantu kwathiwa bahambe bayigodini lokho begcwele edorobheni ngoba thina trying ukuthi idolobho lethu abantu bamuve kahle. Recently ngeke ngaphosa ngabona ingozi ebuhlungu kakhulu. Abantu sebebaleka imoto sithutshile ethu esithi cancel. Umuntu wegijima labantu right round ebhoda indawo yonke khona phana edorobheni worship. Thank you so much.
I'll come to you. There was a hand here that No. You want to speak to 24? I thought I heard you say another. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you so much. My one is on transport, but on the positive side, to say I know there are three companies that already work with us as City Council, Bukta, Chovambayoa, PCTT. And I heard Amanyama councillors saying, so I wanted to add on to say these companies already provide a transport. If you alert them in time, they give a transport for free to us as councillors. And then secondly, also to thank them for the order that they are continuously putting, especially in Kwakweni, communities at Islalaho. Speaking for myself, I approached Ichovambayo and Tela on e-routing, whereby you find Kulumane, Imchove Hamba via Empilo from Kulumani, Yaingaseko. But after talking to them, they made sure they gave us those roads. So in a good way, I would say I'll thank them. So whoever then wants to join in, they should step up and match up what these companies are doing. And also to show Tina as Bulawayo how we do things. They should copy what these other three companies have done so far. And secondly, on Indaba policing, we as council, we have our people that we send to say we go and implement. Because the problem that we are facing, I think, as council is more on implementation. This is why we are fighting leza khamizi zethu. Ukuthi kahle kahle, how do we do things? Today siyakhuluma ngokuthi sizenza so, then we don't do likewise. Like mina endaweni nami engihlala khona, khuluma ngamadonki as mode of transport that they are using. Amadonki are eating izingadi zabantu. Endaweni yami. And I've spoken about this many times. Ukuthi singavalela njani amadonki lawa ukuthi engabuyi, because I think abuye kusuku lenkuni, abuya lezinto abezithwele kusuku. But then sikwenza njani ukuthi amadonki lawana thina as council ukuthi approve. So yizi izinto zanelezi engikhuluma ngazo, ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Your Worship. Is the temporary chair of the Townlands and Planning Committee.
No.
Sorry?
Before him, let others speak.
Okay.
On 24.
On 24, Your Worship, I hear a lot of things being said about transport operators, this and that. Your Worship, you can't go and look for fish in a desert and expect to bring them home to feed your children. You've got to where the fish is found, which is in the dams. The people that are all over town picking up customers are an aggregate of poor enforcement from ourselves. Where is enforcement, Your Worship? These are evident self-inflicted injuries on ourselves on the seat. We have built Egodin and we continue to improve it, my Lord. Can we enforce all the Kumbis to go to Egodin so that they can be regulated from there? There's not going to be any speaking of chasing or running after people picking customers from undesignated points and probably running over residents if everyone is marshaled to Egodin. So, Your Worship, with the greatest respect to the fellow councillors, we have a lot of self-inflicted injuries ourselves as City Council. Let's enforce, let's clear 6th Avenue. Let's enforce, let's clear TM Hyper. Let's enforce, let's clear Calpro. And marshal everyone to Egodin. Because the nature of this business, your Lord, is one such that you look for customers because it is competition. We cannot then be talking of behavior in an unregulated industry like this one. We are only going to accept that when you walk into that door, when you knock, councillors will stand up because you have knocked and give them the signal that you are coming in. Otherwise, if you just open that door, you'll find us on WhatsApp. This is the same that applies with Egodin, Your Worship. Let's enforce.
Right, let me respond. I want to make the following comments. The first is a principle that competition is good. Competition should lower fares. Monopolies are bad because companies the world over get complacent when they have monopolies. That's why there's antitrust legislation throughout the world. And that needs to guide us, I think, as a broad principle in this council, that we need to encourage competition and the free market. That's point number one. However, it's subject to point number two, and I just want to congratulate councillors for your comments regarding law and order. The free market only works within the context of the rule of law being observed. Otherwise, there's chaos. You can't just have a completely unregulated free market. And the councillors who have mentioned Egodini are right on the mark. The town clerk and I know, and Engineer Dibidi knows the great difficulties that we are having at Egodini at present, undermining that entire project, quite frankly, because of lawlessness, because of the fact that these combis are no longer at Egodini, they've moved, as has been said, to 6th Avenue. And it is a critical issue because if not addressed, forget about Cowdrey Park, it is going to undermine Egodini and our other efforts to bring development to the city. So law and order and respect for our bylaws is critical. As we all know, the council is in the process of hiring further municipal police, which are going to be allocated to 6th Avenue in force and elsewhere. But there are still deficiencies in our system in that they do not have powers of arrest and cannot fine. It is a huge deficit in our local government system. Offenders still have to be taken to the police to be fined, which undermines our ability as a council to enforce the law. But to remind you, point number one is we must encourage the free market. Point number two, we need to encourage the rule of law. That leads to the question before us in this specific clause 24. There has been a motion moved by the councillors from Cowdrey Park. My understanding is that the recommendation as presently framed is sufficient to allow a further operator to work at Cowdrey Park. That is my interpretation of the recommendation as it is currently framed. In other words, the way it is presently framed can enable another operator to be authorized to work at Cowdrey Park. So it's been a useful debate, but I think as presently framed, it does address the valid issues that have been raised by the councillors from Cowdrey Park. So those are my comments. Can I call on the chair to respond?
Thank you, Your Worship. Let me start by thanking fellow councillors for the passion and high level of interest which they displayed as we discussed the various items in this report. What I would like to note, and I know you will agree with me, is that in all the deliberations and submissions, there is no one councillor that came out and said they are against the proposal from the Cowdrey Park councillors. What came up were issues of enforcement and issues to do with regulations. Bearing that in mind, I also want to acknowledge that the councillors in Cowdrey Park have to go through each day with the situation that they shared with all of us here. This is a situation that they are facing, and this is a situation that maybe their constituents are always dropping at their doorsteps or laps, whichever may apply. I believe that it is only fair, as you have also said, that the existing proposal speaks to the inclusion also of another operator. Maybe what brought that about, Your Worship, was the issue of clarity, because where there is clarity, there is no room for misinterpretation. So that is very important in whatever we discuss. When we read it, if it says red, or if it says blue, or if it says whatever color, that is what we'll interpret. We will not be in a position where maybe we should be assuming or explaining and so on. However, all these submissions have been noted. My fellow councillor here spoke about her concern regarding lettable unit shops, and she inquired on why we're not building skyscrapers as a city. The committee and the department are actually in the process of reviewing this policy that has to do with lettable unit shops. And as soon as that policy is ready, it will be circulated to all policymakers so that we can all look at the updated policy and have our input as to whether or not it serves the spirit that we've been debating with. So with those few words, Your Worship, allow me to say it is instructive for us as a committee to listen to the concerns of the councillors of Cowdrey Park. They are speaking from the ground where they are, and they have not given us any red flags regarding inclusion of additional operators. And you have said in your own words that when there is multiplicity of operators, the passenger will be the winner at the end of the day. We hope that this is the end result that we'll get. Thank you.
Before we move, I just want to make 2 points of clarification.
Yes.
I think the broad consensus of the House is that the resolution be adopted with the clear understanding that an additional operator will be allowed into Cowdrey Park. The second broad consensus is that with these 4 operators, they all of them, without exception, need to be on notice that if they themselves do not comply with our bylaws, that those licenses will be withdrawn. And that is the spirit in which we go forward. If that is our clear consensus, can we move this report? Right, that's me. I move that the report of the General Purposes Committee meeting held on the 22nd of July as submitted be received and the various recommendations contained therein be adopted. Is there any seconder? Thank you. Any debate?
Your Worship, I stand to speak to item 5 to congratulate the town clerk for the award that he received from Zimbabwe CEO Network. He has been awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award for outstanding work as he led the city of Bulawayo. I would like to say, TC, we join you for having demonstrated leadership, demonstrated outstanding inclusiveness in your leadership qualities, and you have led Bulawayo to where it is today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry?
You have been nominated. He was nominated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. I'm sure the House supports your comments. Is there any other debate on the General Purpose Committee?
Move the report.
We move the report. Chair of Finance, please move your report.
Okay, thank you, Worship. With exception of item 9, that I recommend that it be removed and referred to Councilling Committee. I move that the report of the Finance and Development Committee meeting held on the 23rd of July 2024 is submitted, be received, and the various recommendations contained therein be adopted. I repeat, item 9 should be removed and referred to Councilling Committee. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you. Any debate? Councillor?
Ngiyabonga Nkosi, ku-item 8 billing and debt management. Nkosi ngikhangelele khathesi siku-crisis of i-water shortage and ama-residents ayahamba more than a month kungafikanga ibhawuza bengatholanga amanzi. Ngikhangelele ukuthi i-department le-chairperson liza kukhangela ngoba wayine crisis abantu bebebhadala bezama khathesi amanzi abawatholi ukuthi liza kubamba njani ngoba abantu bayabe bezihlupha bethwala nzima ukuthi lalabo abawatholayo bencedisa abangatholiyo ukuthi liza kubamba njani likukhangele ngoba khathesi bebekhala ngama overbilling for the past month khathesi vele amanzi awafiki so liza kubamba njani kuma high lying areas lapha amanzi angafinyeleli khona ngicela ukuthi Chalimane likukhangele khona.
Ngithanda ukuthi ngicele ukuthi u-billing system angazi ama-residents asephiwe i-final lokuze letter yokuthi bebhadale. Ngibona ngani laphana kule problem ngile ncwadi engilayo la eyamanzi babhiliwe ukuthi kusukela ngo-March up to day kule security se-504 usebhalelwe incwadi yokuthi uzothathela impahla. Ngeke ngazama ukukhulumisana ne-management ukuthi ngicela lingisize khona lapho angitholi isizo. So i-problem engilayo ukuthi ama-residents abhilwa over bengasebenzisanga amanzi angikhona and engekho so kubuya futhi ukuthathelwa impahla. So lami njengokhansila ngicela ukuthi nxa sebefika to that extent lami ngibe aware ukwenzela ukuthi ngibone ukuthi i-problem kuyini. So ngila incwadi engilayo ukuthi in 2 months umuntu usebhilwe 504 usethathelwa impahla. Angazi ukuthi i-problem yethu ukuthi lizaletha ama-final demands amanzi ukuthi lizothatha impahla but i-problem ibe kithi njengekhansela ukuthi sibhile over. angazi ukuthi khonaphana singawukhangelisa ukuthi lese amaphepha amanzi lawa ne-billing nxa ebuya kuma-residents liqale li-check-e before ukuthi azange kube le mistake yini ngoba sometimes thina njenge-council sisuka si-overcharge abantu singazange sinanzelile then sokubuya kuchaya khona ngalo ukuthi khona lina yineli lezikweredi lina line elisifakeleni izikweredi zangikhona by mistake. So sicela kuqale likukhangele lingakathathela abantu impahla ukuthi ama-charges elilawo yana lawo is really ngoba khathesi incwadi ngilayo embuyelayo for i-evidence ukuthi likubone ngike ngakhulumisana lobaba uMatari ukuthi ngicela ungisize khonapho ngoba abantu abami esigabeni bathathelwa impahla because of khonoko akulamanzi but you are taking impahla zabo. Ngiyabonga.
Do you want to respond to that?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Which item, Councillor?
The same item 8. On billing. I think it's case I want to workshop, Your Worship, on the billing system. And there were all in the agreement among councils who the billing system there is it doesn't work. Can't have a resident being built for our services about. For example, with the water that they are built, Aiko. Amazabi Pume one day in 30 days, totally bill Singabalama rate, totally bill $290. So the position that was before this house was that this billing system does not work. And we also encouraged the finance department and the management, let's adopt smart metering. Let's adopt smart metering councillors. So that abantu kumele badle abanjani abavulele la ngizwisisa abantu kumele babhadale amanzi abatholileyo nxa amanzi ephume for one day umuntu uyabhadala for la amanzi aphumile. I think it will also help us in debt collection. If you look at what ZESA did in smart metering, they were able to collect all their debts from the residents. So it will help us. It will also help us in oversight management. Currently management yabiviki lokusitabula mali kuma residents, but if we have a smart metering lokuzenini where we have a situation where residents have no debt, who council we also want a result from this council because imali yabi very khona council. Ngiyabonga.
On that same item 8, I would suggest ukuthi ngabe siyama ukuthathela izakhamizi impahla sifake our house in order first, because I don't understand a situation whereby we allow someone to have a credit yamanzi up to 1,000 singamu ningangi warning ukuthi you are using more water, then say to Chatina City you owe us 1,000, so you are thereby forced to pay now or else sesithatha impahla yakho. Kati system yethu yokuthi umuntu nxa sela manzi maybe afika 200 siyevala amanzi yaya ngaphi than to wait ukuthi umuntu ezefika ku $1,000. So it all looks like we are putting our resident ku trap, siba frustrate ngoke bathathela impahla zabo thina iside yethu singalungisisanga. So i-billing system yethu njoba kuvele ngani kulama complaints, can't we put a hold on taking impahla zabazali, siqale siyenze into yethu ibele order first then sizalandela khonoko. But I'm trying to say ukuthi let's not allow ama residents ukuthi ezebe lesikweleti esifika 500 thina why singakambi kuyevala amanzi kungakawonakala. Thank you.
I'll come to you, Councillor, but
on the same issue of high billing or the assumed estimated billings, taking into cognizance the number of meter readers we have, I think the department is seriously understaffed in that area. We have very few meter readers. if we compare to the numbers of houses where they're supposed to go within the whole city. I therefore propose that if possible, we have to recruit more meter readers to guard against that issue of mistakes which are done. Some of them can be human error. They are very, very few, Your Worship. So let's recruit more meter readers.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. May I say this? In as much as council, sometimes we are found having wrongly built residents. But as policymakers, sometimes it is very key to investigate. I'll give you a good example. When people receive these letters of demand, normally they rush to us policymakers. I want to give you a good example of what 9. If you bring your letter of demand to me, I take you to the credit control office to say investigate this account. And 99% of those, you'd see that the resident has since paid council 3 years back. But we don't want to say it here. Residents need to be told the truth. Yes, we want to be voted, but let us be voted also by telling the residents the correct thing. It is not proper for, I've heard some say, no, no, it's wrong. Residents must pay. Secondly, on billing, last week, we had that budget review. And a day before, one resident came to me rushing, complaining about the bill. And I said, this bill of yours. So I took the chairperson of the Residents Association to the place of this person. There are 2 Jojo tanks, 5,000 liters, 2 of them, filled with water. And they say, what do you expect? So let us be responsible. If, as long as we are not telling residents the truth, I don't think we are leading properly. We have to exercise, to be responsible leaders, right? And tell them what is right and what is wrong. When water comes, maybe we get water 4 times a month, right? Residents, they bank water now. We bank, I'm part of a resident. Everyone here has got buckets. So when we are billed, you are being billed. We are being billed. You would find in our homes we've got drums, buckets, which stores thousands of liters. And when city council bills here, we come here and start to cry forward and say, how do you bill us, boss? So let us speak properly. And these residents, of course, we understand there are some clear cases, maybe like what the fellow colleague is saying. You see, it's a concern that they can say, surely. You see, but that resident has to be told to say, pay. If it is a genuine problem, you correct it. But 99% of those residents who come complaining, they are found on the wrong side of the law. And we need to play our part as councillors in our feedback meetings to tell them what is right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Worship, I said on the same item of billing, and I would like to study deep yet, or probably regress a little and address the issue of internal processes. Councillor Mhlanga spoke eloquently about the need to go smart metering as a means of eating what you keep, also as a means of collecting legacy debt. Something that is very efficient, like he gave an important ZESA explanation. Sometimes as councillors, we are victims of our ability to try and find popularity in the residents, like Councillor Mabuto has rightfully said. We refuse smart metering on the basis that other people run with water. How many households have run out of electricity apart from the shaping period, electricity shaping period? Everyone is paid up. Someone buys his $10 electricity, someone buys his $50 electricity, someone buys his $7 electricity. At the end of the day, we all have electricity to cook. Meanwhile, ZESA has recovered its debt. This is the same process, Your Worship. In terms of efficient revenue collection, this is going to be the panacea in addressing city council's challenges in terms of collecting people and losing money, hiring lawyers and debt collectors to go and collect revenue to councillors, to residents. Number one. Number two, the issue of change management, which speaks directly to council management agreeing to implementing the smart water metering issue, is also a cause for concern in this city council, Your Worship. We have spoken full council after full council on the need to ensure that we take the burden off our residents by, number one, guessing their bills, by aggregating them and dividing them by 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4 months. All those things are academic. Because assuming that your bill was high for the first, the second month when we started guessing your account, if it was wrongly read, it means your average that will bill you every month will consistently rise. That is if my statistics is right. But here we are, with a very skilled leadership in this city council with glorious CVs. We are failing to ask those that are showing expressions of interest to test run these projects of water billing, Your Worship, so that at least we can see who is more efficient than the other, or even divide the city into 5 areas. In my ward where I come from, I speak with this with confidence. What 3 residents are crying for smart meters, Your Worship, because they are tired of being billed on the meat, charged on the meat they did not buy from the butcher. I therefore propose, Your Worship, that through you and the town clerk, you expedite the process of implementing or doing a research on the smart metering so that we can close this gap. We are evidently failing to do accurate billing, and we enjoy taking residents' money and writing them threatening letters. I represent a ward with an average age of 65. Most pensioners. Those small pieces of letter, Your Worship, are terrifying when they get them. We are going to kill our residents. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've had the privilege from last year up to this year, I've had the privilege of interacting with the finance department, especially those who deal with the billing aspect. Can I give you an example of what happened? I think one of the biggest roles that a councillor has is to make sure that city council does not fail to collect revenues that are going to sustain it. Your Worship, there is what we call enterprise risk management in audit sectors, which city council through its audit department is pursuing. One of the biggest risks for this council is for councillors who may fail at any given time to articulate truth, as it has been said by one of the fellow councillors. We have a responsibility to make sure that we tell residents that in a given year, you have 12 statements that are delivered to you. And if you timelessly pay your monthly statement, you are never going to have accumulations, monthly accruals that run into 600, 700 or 1,000. Honestly speaking, how does a resident who understands that this is urban life, this is town life, where services must be paid for, how do you have accruals accumulating up to arrears of 600 USD? I find that one difficult to understand, and it is our role as councillors to make sure that we tell the residents the truth, that for you to fall behind to that extent, it is criminal. Because you are definitely going to collapse this local authority. Local authority must deliver services, and those services need funding. We cannot recount what council needs to do, but the truth is that some residents, like I said, I'll give you one example. He came to me fuming, to say, look, council has cut off my supply. I said, but what is your standing? What is your status in terms of up-to-date payments? He said, no, councillor, look, I'm paying my rentals every month. I said, are you sure? He said, yes. I said, all right, let's go to revenue. We get to revenue, we see the credit control manager, only to find that this person, yes, for sure, he has been paying every month. By paying how much? Our monthly accrual is 40 USD per month, but he had been paying 10 USD every month. So which means to say he took 4 months to pay a single monthly accrual. So this is the tragedy that we face, and the risk for this council is to fail to collect sufficient revenues for it to be able to deliver services. And we need to stand for the truth and speak to the residents in our monthly feedback meetings.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Allow me to write on the same item. Your Worship, as a forward-thinking individual that has been exposed to various technologies, I submit that it is tempting to fall into the pit of verbal gymnastics on the matters around billing. It is also my submission that in order to move forward as a smart and transformative city, we need to put a lead on the issue of smart metering. It is something that we have spoken about at length. It is something that we have even gone to the point of actually saying we need to look at case studies where this has been implemented so that we have empirical evidence of the success. And I know the benefit that it will bring to ratepayers. It will mean there will be no more of these letters of demand, perhaps. It will mean residents will not have to worry about, well, the billing headache will be taken off the table. So we need to move to a stage where we come up with a functional and sustainable model of rolling out these smart meters. I think we are at a stage where we really need to be talking about the if, when we need to be talking about the when and the how around smart metering. We need to be talking to residents about the potential benefits and what they need to expect from these smart metering situations. And to do this, I think through you and the town clerk, maybe you can assist us to come up with a transition mechanism so that we move from these current meters that we have to smart meters. I also submit, Your Worship, that there are some residents who dwell in homes where those meters are non-functional and have been bearing the brunt of estimated bills for a while now. So I think we really need to walk the talk when it comes to issues of smart metering. The only way forward is to actually delve into the issue and start implementing. Thank you, Your Worship.
1.8.
No, I can't take it.
No, I want to finish off with 8. Ma'am, are you on point 8? Madam Council, are you still on point 8?
Yes.
Brilliant, thank you.
Ngiyabonga Your Worship. Mina ngu-item 8 khona lapho baba. Isikhalazo sami yilezi. Ibhilling ikakhulu yilezi zindlu esigabeni ezingatholi amanzi. Akhona isigaba sonke, but isigaba nje lutshwana abatholi amanzi sebeza bemba imigodi etshonayo. Ngihlala kubika worship ukuthi abantu laba imigodi leyana kayikho mihle ukuze bathole amanzi ukuncedisa emayadini abo phakathi. Yikho ngikhala kakhulu kubhili ngoba ibhili labo liyabuya libalile i-water consumption. Liyabuya kubaliwe i-water consumption. Kodwa amanzi kabasebenzisi basebenzisa emthomba abayembileyo etshona kakhulu yorship. Angazi ukuthi ngancediseka kanjani ngoba sengikhulume ngakho ngaphinda ukubana hayi phakamanini liyezibonela engiyabe ngikhuluma ngakho. Ngiyabonga.
On point 8. I'd like to make a variety of comments. The first is that clearly this debate about billing is very closely tied into water. We obviously bill on a whole range of issues, but the primary concern is water. And as it is water, we need to come back to that horrifying figure that we face, that at present we deliver rather 48% of the water delivered to the city we do not account for. We have a figure of 48% of what is termed non-revenue water. And if we convert that into dollars and cents, you will appreciate that that is a vast amount of money that the city is losing. Now, not all of that, of course, is water which is actually being consumed by customers. Some of it is the result of pipe bursts, but a vast amount of that is water that is being consumed and should be paid for. So this is a significant issue. The negative side of it is that it's damaging to our balance sheet and our income. The positive side is that it must provide us with an opportunity to justify for loans or whatever we need to get meters, because when banks or whatever ask us where's the revenue going to come from, we can demonstrate that the revenue can come from some of that lost revenue. So that's point number one that I want to make. We must not lose sight of this huge gap in our income. The second thing that we need to appreciate is we cannot debate this and ignore the other resolutions that we as council have taken and the contracts that we are now entering into with VEI. The broad resolution that we have to establish a water authority. And yesterday I was privileged to meet with Engineer Dube, the water distribution engineer, and the person who has been appointed as the project manager for the establishment of the authority. And I was advised yesterday that the intention is to have the authority established by December 2025. The relevance of this to this debate is that for the authority to become self-sufficient and efficient, it and us are going to have to address this squarely. So that's point number two. Point number three is a general point, and in particular, Chair, I address this to you, regarding billing. We have a variety of general deficiencies in our billing system. The old system, where bills are sent by post, is not working. I personally have months go by without me receiving a paper bill. But it is antiquated. For example, if you look at the city of Johannesburg, everyone gets their bill via email or WhatsApp. And there's no reason why we should not be billing electronically like that instead of using the postal system. Tied to that is this perennial issue of residents being able to access their bills via our website. And Those chairs who were in the meeting last week heard from the Director of Finance, but it bears repeating that there is an undertaking from the Director of Finance that the ability to access bills, we hope, will be functioning by the end of August. And that is a critical component in terms of what two of the councillors have said regarding conveying a sense of responsibility to residents. If you can access your bill electronically, you can check to see whether your payments are reflected as credits. But equally for councillors, it is then easy for us to make our own checks. You don't have to go into the revenue hall to see the history. And so this ability to make our accounts accessible online must be a priority as we tackle this issue. So I leave those 3 points. We are still on item 8. I think that we've concluded item 8, but there is debate on other items. So I will come back to you, Chair, if I may, to do concluding remarks to handle all the items raised. I understand that there's
Item 13.
Item 13, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, I'm happy that the committee have now seen it fit to review the policy on council schools. Council schools are lagging behind in terms of development compared to government schools. The government schools gave the mandate to parents to run the government schools, and the government schools are pretty doing well, but we're lagging behind because the policy, our policy does not allow the parents to run the schools as it were. In government schools, the parents buy buses, the parents construct ECD blocks, the parents do ABCD, buy even textbooks. But with our council schools, they are not able to do that because of the policy which does not allow them to borrow money from the banks. So I'm saying, yes, what they've done is good, but unfortunately, there's no timeline. We don't know when they are intending to start implementing this, when they're intending to make sure the policy is reviewed. Because talking about reviewing it without timelines will not assist residents and parents of Bulawayo. I thank you, Your Worship.
Any further debate on 13? Any other debate? No. And we'll give the chair an opportunity to respond.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, for his concern on the councillors have noted and their contributions will help us as the finance committee to our again. Number one, we talked about the issue that we don't have water, but it's still being our residents. We should note that besides being water only, there are rates that are built, there is solid waste, there is refuse that is built. So there is no point in time when even if you don't have water for a month when you can't receive the bill, because other services they will be provided. Then on the issue of debt collection, maybe if we recall our budget, I think it was approved in March, and one of the conditions for this approval was that we collect 70% from what we are paying. So maybe now it's a time issues between the issue of using lawyers and letter of demands or even smart meters. It's up to us, for policymakers, to choose, because we cannot ignore that we have a target of 70%. And also for this council to function, we need funds. So there is no way we can send final letter of demands or send instructive lawyers to collect on behalf of us when we fail to collect as a council. So councillors, it's up to us that we choose the smart metering or the system that we are currently undertaking, but we cannot ignore making corrections. Then lastly, on the issue of smart metering that has been added to, as finance, we are not the custodians of meters. The custodians of meters are the engineering department. So they must be the ones who give us time frame when they want to implement the smart metering. And there was a point that we raised expressed by Lady Councillor Kumar, where she said that we need to employ more meter readers. I think maybe it's good that we can employ more meter readers, but if we look, times have changed. People now, they like their privacy. You go to someone's house, they don't open for you. So even if you employ more meter readers, we can't avoid this. We can't eliminate accidents because you go to someone's gate, maybe they are not there, they create or they deliberately inflict the maid or children to open the gate. So you can't avoid now the issue of smart metering. You need engineering to consider these issues so that the finance will already exhausted and we agreed that can you bring us smart meters? The Banco director of engineering was talking about that they wanted to do a pilot program, but we haven't seen very late where it is. So maybe the next council meeting, we'd like to have the update on that. The last, on item number 13, when was talking about timelines for the policy. We agreed as finance when we had the meeting together with the director of housing, Minister Director Kumar. In the next finance meeting, they are going to bring this policy for us to change. Because seriously, our children in council schools are lagging behind, and they say people need to budget to school functions. Other schools have in their buses. But as a council, you are not allowing your own schools to purchase buses. So this policy will be changed in the next council.
The chairman has responded to the.
I shorted my hand and you picked up on it.
Ma'am, you're saying that your hand was up? Okay, I will. You may speak, ma'am.
Item 15, I'm worried about the recommendation looking that Zimbra was given 16 years ago to develop and still you need to extend. And I'm worried, are we not setting wrong precedents? Because if someone is failing to develop within those years, are there no regulations that speak to those things? Because I'm sure in future this will not go well with us.
Is there any further debate on this report? And Chair, do you want to respond to that comment?
Move the report, Your Worship.
Do we move the report? Thank you. Report is moved. Are we done? Is there any notice of leave? No. That I asked for. Do any councillors have notice of leave? No, we're all here. Good. Thank you, councillors. That is the end of our meeting until we meet in committee.